I always feel like it's a date with God. There's so many reasons why people come to spiritual direction. And one of the main ones is discernment. And that's a process where someone has to make a decision. And usually it's a pretty big decision. Maybe they're thinking about going into the ministry, or maybe they're thinking about getting married. There are times when people are in a job and they're questioning whether that's the right work for them and that there maybe needs to be another work. People come because they want to experience God, but they haven't. So they're just beginning their spiritual journey. People come who are very experienced but want to deepen their relationship with God. People come in crisis. Sometimes that's the spark that brings them in. Maybe they've suffered a depression, or something harsh has happened in their life and they want to be able to process and deal with it in a spiritual way. And for me, I think of it as being a midwife, working with someone, only a spiritual midwife. And so I am waiting with a person as they are exploring their relationship with the divine, with God, with Jesus, whoever it is that's coming up for them. And I'm listening with my spiritual ears to hear the different movements that are going on inside them, and to ask questions that help that person go deeper, to understand more about their spirituality, to come up with ideas about spiritual practices. So it's a place to explore a relationship. As the more that I do spiritual direction, the more that I pick up on the subtle sensations in my body about where that person is sort of in spiritual depth. And it's interesting because a person can come in and I might not have met them before, but I'll have this real strong sense that they're in a deep place. And the thing with doing spiritual direction is I tend to go to the place where that person is and to hold that space. And so it's a kind of a sense of vibration. And so I can feel if it's like more surface or if we're going to a quieter, more contemplative level. So I'm always monitoring that. And to me, that's a feeling of God's presence. Almost always, it does shift. And a lot of times people might come in with a lot of anxiety. And as they're able to pour out whatever's happened, maybe talk about what the incident was that's brought them to that state, I think they're aware that they're laying it out for God. And in a way that I give things over to God, they do that. And then I ask questions to help them focus and look more closely at where God is in that situation. And as they go deeper, they feel more connected. And so you can feel the whole atmosphere in the room shift to be quieter, happier, joyous. Those are a lot of the feelings that people have when they are feeling closer to God. Also, it's helpful for their imagination to open up. For me, I feel like that is the direct connection that all humans have to the sacred world, to the divine, to God. And that's our medium where that exchange can happen, where you can hear that inward teacher speaking to you. So I think it's critical to have some amount of imagination. And sometimes people say, oh, it's just your imagination, but really, imagination is the place where a lot can happen. People often, when they start in spiritual direction and they start working with their imagination, they will say, well, it's just my imagination, it's not real. But there is a place that you get to where, the directee themselves will say, I know this is God. There's a sureness and a truthfulness about what's happening in it. It's not just a daydream. It's more that you've entered into an inner dialogue or an inner sensory experience of your spiritual life.